Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hi guys, welcome back to SPTV, where if you didn't know, now you do know. And this is going to be the second part of us reacting to kid that grew up in Scientology reacts to kid that grew up in Scientology. And in today's episode, you guys, we're going to be covering one of the very, very, very first OGs of whistleblowing. And whistleblowing, especially on the conditions of how kids were treated inside those hotels. And somebody that we admire so much because at such a young age, she showed everybody how much intelligence and grace she actually possessed, and how explicit and how intelligent her accounts of unthinkable, disgusting things that she was subjected to as a child. Now, all of these allegations have been ignored, trivialized, and pretty much told that she deserved it, as well as her sister, as well as I, as well as all the other second, third, fourth, and fifth generations that have come forward on the public record and discussed in high level of detail, nauseating detail, stuff that it shouldn't be our job to have to be going through this, putting ourselves through this again, just because nobody that is a full-blown journalist wants to go in and find out for themselves what in the literal hell is going on in those hotels. So here we sit on this year 2023 with the Tampa Bay Times snoring, literally sleeping outside of the hotels, waiting for God knows what. You guys, because Astra's story is a story that was, covered so well by Mark Bunker and Stacey. Once again, an interview that gets to the point of what in the hell was going on. So we would like to highlight that and react so we can continue showing you receipts of what in the hell's been going on and what has been decided by the editors at the Tampa Bay Times to not cover for the entirety of Clearwater and the entirety of Tampa Bay, who sit with the scourge of child trafficking, with their whole entire downtown infested by crooked executives, deranged crooked executives, unhinged, deranged, unscrupulous executives that gave themselves the type of power to treat Astra as a minor the way she's going to go into excruciating detail here. So let's continue highlighting what the corporate media is hiding from all of y'all. Okay, let's continue really, really, really contextualizing it, because you know what? If we wait for them to want to do their job, I think this is all we ever gonna hear from people that get paid to do a job but refuse to do the goddamn job they're out there purporting they do. So take a look, you guys, and put it in the comments. Put your comments to the Tampa Bay Times. Ask them the questions you need to ask yourselves. After we respond, we react, we continue to contextualize what was our personal experience in the hotels, given that in this interview, you guys, where Astra is being asked these questions, I was a child locked up. I was a child that Astra's mom was sending to the hole together with Debbie Cook. So there's a lot of context to be said about this interview. And by the time this interview ends and we react, you guys, I can promise you one thing. The Tampa Bay Times will be put in a position to have to defend the indefensible, which is their abysmal, watered down, whatever in the hell type of journalism they do in that paper. It would be great to know. It would be great to understand what kind of journalistic nonprofit owns this paper that decides to poke their eyes out of their eyeballs while they purport to investigate. Be great to know from that 501c that owns the Tampa Bay Times.
Recently, the Woodcraft family came to visit us at the Lisa McPherson Trust. Lawrence Woodcraft and his daughters Zoe and Astra sat down to talk with Stacey Brooks.
Astra, why don't we start with your story? Tell us how you first got involved in Scientology and how old you were.
Well, when I was born and we lived in England, my mom was still an active member in Scientology.
So let's just contextualize one thing here, you guys, because when we talk about this being a full-blown international racketeering conspiracy of shuffling minors around countries who apparently all seem to be 100% okay with this. Apparently in England, we've had Claire Headley go on Cults and Consciousness the other day to discuss how she was also a child in England being trafficked into the United States by her mother. So here's Exhibit B of that exact same testimony, just so that everyone at the Tampa Bay Times and everyone at the LA Times, as these kids also were trafficked through Los Angeles, LA Times, y'all that seem to be sleeping, snoring, you must have been taking 10 bottles of Xanax, because for the last decades you've been nowhere to be found in any of Scientology's stories. Gee, we wonder why. Be really interesting to understand how the LA Times just snores away day in and day out, reporting nothing, having nothing to report, nothing to see here, you guys. Right, LA Times, or wrong?
I don't think my dad was active. He didn't really want to be in it. Kind of went along with my mom. But so from as early as I can remember, we knew about Scientology. My mom would have us do contact assist, for example. Like if we got hurt, we had to say, I hit my hand on the table, I'd have to touch it back over and over and over until it felt better. These are like some of the things I remember growing up doing. And when I was about 5 or 6, she took us to an organization called St. Hill, which is the main organization for Scientology in England. And I received, 10 or 12 hours, I think, approximately, of what's called auditing. And this was mainly the auditor, who's the person who delivers it to you, would tell me, look at that wall, go over and touch that wall, walk away from that wall, just over and over and over.
What was the purpose of that?
It's supposed to, from what I know, get you into what they say, like present time, like wake you up from being all like.
But I mean, you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
So how did you?
Well, I mean, I was 5 years old and I thought this is what people do. You know, I didn't know that it was weird.
I didn't know it was weird. We couldn't have been more confused. We couldn't have been more astonished as to what in the literal hell these adults were purporting was going to be very beneficial to us, starting here at age 5, you guys. 12 hours plus as a 5-year-old being told to go look at a wall and to touch a wall ad nauseum, nonstop. And let's just remember, for the people in the back who cannot, for the life of them, investigate, for the people in the back that not for the life of them can connect a dot, literally. Even if we put like literally dot, line, dot like this, they still cannot connect the dot, guys. So for that, let's just really highlight how if you as a 5-year-old tell your auditor, why am I looking at a wall? I want this to stop. I'm so bored. I hate it. I understand. That can turn on. It can also turn off. The more we do this process, you will allow this to turn off. So we will continue the process. I'll repeat the question. Walk over to that wall. I'll repeat the command. Walk over to that wall. That's what's called a handling in Scientology. That's all you get. A robot, disgusting, adult, degenerate puppet that has not a shred of critical thinking skills to deal with you in that moment as you're literally supplicating for the shit to stop, for the nonsense to stop, for you to be just left alone for a minute, because you cannot stand the level of disassociation that you got to get into in order to be puppet and forced into doing this performative, disgusting domination exercise of a disgusting adult that thinks it's a great idea to have his way with a child this way, either with Astra, either with me, either with Laura, either with Catherine, either with Reese, either with Aaron, either with Claire, either with Mike Rinder, either with David Miscavige, who was a kid there too, being brought in by his father. Here, L. Ron Hubbard, go do some drills on my son, David Miscavige. He will love it. He will love it so much. So all of these adults endorse this disgusting dysfunction. All of them as a collective. All of them said, yes, L. Ron Hubbard, you are right. You couldn't be more right. You couldn't be more of a genius, is what they tell you he is. He's a genius. He's an amazing man. Well, try to pitch that to us now. Make L. Ron Hubbard seem like a genius to us right now as full-grown adults. We dare you. Anybody out there of the under the radar that wants to pitch L. Ron Hubbard as a sort of genius, please, by all means, write it in our comments. Get yourself a name that no one can find out and tell us why L. Ron Hubbard is a genius. Please leave that in the comments. Tell us why a full convicted felon in absentia is the person that you are going to for spiritual whatever, for access to kids like Astra, for access to kids like myself, for access to kids like Aaron and Claire and Daisy. There's just so many of us that went through this experience as kid, and the joke has been on us. So yes, haha, great, wonderful. We're done with the stupid joke. We're not fucking laughing at all. We are adults. We need answers, and all we have is questions. We need answers, and all we get is gaslit ad nauseum, as if we don't know what gaslighting sounds like, looks like, smells like, and feels like. As if we didn't have to defend against all of this dysfunction when we were children, putting up with these disgusting abuses. Now we're on the flip side. Now everything is actually clear. The state of clear has been reached by the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh generation. We have achieved the state of clear. Y'all are endorsing the clown rhetoric of an extremist, unhinged degenerate that America pitched you as a god, American-born god, the convicted felon that you are, all into endorsing. Go ask Charles Manson what happened to the people that endorse his stupidity. Go ask them what happened to them, because apparently the American government does know how to stop this type of racketeering influence. But for God knows what reason is running a full-blown state-sanctioned hotel operating, including but not limited to, in California for the Democrats out there. For Mr. Gavin, whatever, the governor of California. Democrat, woke, yay, whatever. But then let's go over to Florida for Governor DeSantis. Red, not woke. Hates Disney, but have we ever heard a single critical shred of a line come out of Governor DeSantis's mouth about the people who own all of Clearwater downtown? With all of these interviews on the public record of people abusing minors at scale. Since Governor DeSantis is, running for president and all, go hit up his Twitter and ask him, yo, what's up with the Clearwater problem? What's up with all these YouTubes on SPTV that your campaign keeps ignoring and pretending they don't exist in Clearwater? Because him and Gavin Newsom should have a little debate and see like who really cares about child trafficking in what state. Is it a blue problem or a red problem? Maybe they both can debate and see who's worse, whose hands are more full of blood, which party, the Democrats or the Republicans, or both. Because right about now, we've got enough receipts, enough kids to literally expose both parties as the pathetic enablers that they stand to be, purporting that they're all about, religious rights. Really, religious rights? Y'all are so easy to gaslight and manipulate and be duped. But you know what? Y'all went to school. So if you're being duped, that means you're being corrupted. So who's paying what money in Washington for these hotels to operate with impunity in plain sight? The lobbyists of Scientology. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to all these attorney law firms that have done not a shred of due diligence on their client. Well, look what is going on with the RICO case of Donald Trump as we speak right now, because how many of those lawyers are, getting into trouble for lying on the record? How many of them are losing licenses? Maybe y'all can start really thinking about maybe due diligence is called for in this case, given that this client does pay you ungodly amount of retainer hours for y'all to just sit there on the sidelines advising them on how to conduct legal business inside those hotels, how to make it look like it could be legal. We would love to hear from all of those attorneys doing this bidding. What in the hell are y'all doing? And every single time you lie, we're going to know. Because if you don't go inside that hotel and have eyeballs inside the hotel for yourselves, if you don't do that for yourselves, and we never saw you doing any inspections, no lawyers went around the hotel doing inspections. So if y'all are just getting pitched stuff by David and the rest of his protege underlings that are all in on being corrupt AF. Look what's on the public record already. Look how many times OSA lies. The guys at OSA don't give an F. They will say whatever to further the literal convicted, indicted felons L. Ron Hubbard's agenda. OSA will be like, yeah, must be in my best interest to lie to the government. It's not like the government gives an F. It's not like the government is going to come knock on our doors. It's not like the LAPD is not besties already with us at the Human Trafficking Division specifically, since we know that's the man tapped to do podcasts with Marisol Nichols for a slave-free world, another 501c that Ms. Nichols has, and it's running. Well, Ms. Nichols runs that. Let's continue listening to what Astra's telling us is going on in her childhood experience. And let's leave that open question there for Ms. Nichols. Ms. Nichols, please advise. Listen to this interview and please put a statement out together. Start writing down why what happens here to Astra inside the hotels that you are a patron of is not child trafficking. Given that you're the expert at this, given that you're being literally given access to the Center for Exploited Children, because that's the new guest on Ms. Nichols' podcast that just came on yesterday, you guys. I mean, the content, we don't have enough time in the day to react to all the stuff that's already on the public record. So why is the Center for Missing and Exploited Children talking to Ms. Nichols, the one who funds the hotel where Astra was being kept, where I was being kept? Why are you doing that, Center for Missing and Exploited Children? Any of those reps in that organization, start typing us an email. The kids that grew up in those hotels locked up. Please write it down ASAP. Start making yourselves clear. Because again, it's literally all over the public record who Marisol Nichols is, really all about funding. So if y'all don't do any type of due diligence before you just give your representatives to have a woman who's involved in all of what we're seeing here, it'd be great to hear from that supposed agency that we're supposed to be relying on, no more child trafficking. I mean, honestly, you guys, it couldn't be more pathetic. It could not be more pathetic what's being done in front of our faces, literally, without even a shred of shame. They just think that we are so stupid that we cannot connect a single dot. So everything's going to be done the same way because, America really wants to stop child trafficking. Oh my God. You cannot wait, right, America? Literally, you cannot wait to stop child trafficking. That's a priority for you.
And I just kind of went along with it. The thing with the context assist where I had to touch it back, I hated that. I would just have to tell her it was better because I couldn't stop till it was better. And same with the sessions, the auditing, I couldn't stop until I said, oh, this is great, or I just had a realization.
So you mean at that
at the age
of
5 or 6, it was like, wow, that was fun. That would be my realization. I'd be able to stop. But yeah.
But I mean, at that early age, you were already learning how to pretend to be feeling better so that you could?
Imagine that, you guys. We had to pretend that it was fun being paraded around back and forth from a wall like a zombie, like a drone. Touch that wall. And then they would be inappropriate because if you didn't want to touch, they would start forcing you. They would grab your hand, touch it. And if you said no, they'd just grab it and force it and make you do it. And apparently that was very therapeutic. According to L. Ron Hubbard, nothing could be more therapeutic than that. Nothing to get you into present time like that. And yet again, another false pitch from that disgusting degenerate. Because it'd be nice for any one of his proteges, since he's dead and all, to tell us and pitch us why grabbing the hand of a child by force against their will and shoving it on a wall is a religious experience. We need to understand why that's being done to kids in the hotels as we speak. And you, Monique Yingling, can start typing that on an email. Why are kids being forced to touch walls for hours, including but not limited to 12 hours of that at 5 years old? Why was that done? And why was that religious? And why was that okay? That is the questions we have, and that's what we need answers for. Why was that okay, Monique? CCHs? Why was CCHs being done on kids? And if you want to pretend this is not happening, here's a little tip for you, Monique, just so you know that it's not like, oh, but that was so long ago, and of course we changed our minds since. Here, Monique, for you, so you don't even have to like think. That's how easy we're gonna make it here for you. You're not even gonna have to even think. Just have your legal assistant, your secretary, GTS, what this is, Mace Kingsley. You know, and shout out to my uncle, Rigoberto Gil, and my aunt, Maria Elena Gil, who work here and who do this to kids, who literally are in the business of making money for this being done to kids as we speak, Monique. Not yesterday, not 10, literally today, children that are being audited are being subjected to this. So when you have a good explanation for that, make sure you start typing it on an email, because we need to understand all the shit that makes not a shred of a sense today. You have to get past our intelligence now, because we're not taking your false pitch anymore. Didn't work for us, and it's not working for any one of the kids that y'all have trapped inside those hotels and commercial buildings.
Not have to do it anymore?
Yeah, because I mean, okay, we're out shopping and I trip or something. I have to like hit my knee into the floor over and over, not painfully, but do it over and over. It's so embarrassing, you know? So yeah, I'd be like, I'd do it twice and I'd say, it's all better. And then I'd have to be pretending that it's all better, that I'm not hurt anymore.
I mean, so embarrassing, you guys. We cannot stop saying how nauseatingly embarrassing it was for us to be doing all these weird drills, all these weird things that our parents were putting us up to with all these false promises of this is how we do it. And aren't you so lucky to have to hurt your knee and tap it and tap it and tap it in front of people? And people would look at us like in the middle of the supermarket. What is that kid doing? Like, it was weird. It was bizarre. Like nothing has a shred of sense. Literally, like, why is this all being done?
More because I don't want to be so embarrassed or made to do this thing over and over again. And it was the same with the auditing. And while I thought this is what, you know, people do, it still seemed that I didn't like it really, but I just went along with it because, you know, my mom really wanted me to do it. She said it was so wonderful and stuff. So when I was 7, my mom's father died, and she went to Flag, which is in Clearwater in Florida, and that's like their highest level organization for delivering auditing. It's the most expensive. And he had left her some money, and she took that money to go and receive services from Scientology.
Do you know how much he'd left her?
Well, I know he left her a lot more in trust, but he left her like a fixed amount immediately for her to get of maybe $10,000 or $15,000.
Mhm.
Not exactly sure. So she took that, and then she just called from Flag to us. We were in England, and said, "I've joined the Sea Org, and you're all going to move out here." And she had already started working. She was already working there before she even told us,
And
and
she's-
got our agreement.
And she's telling you and your dad.
and my brother, who's older, and she came back to get us, right? She came back, right? Yeah, to pack us all up and take us. And what she told me is we were going for a year for a vacation. We were going to stay in a big house with a lot of people, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's why it was okay to go, because I would have, I'm sure, been really upset. I was already upset leaving all my friends, leaving our house, leaving my family, but I thought we were going for a year. It was like a really long, really fun vacation. But there was no intention that we were, obviously, it was for, she signed a billion-year contract, because that's what you sign when you go in this organization.
Mhm.
So that's what, reality was. And we were told we were going to go to a really nice private school, that we were going to have a 2-bedroom apartment, that they'd have time off every other week, like the day off for us to go and, do whatever we wanted to do, things like that. And so we all just up and moved to Clearwater in Florida. The first place we stayed was a motel that was very rundown, called the Quality Inn. They kept the name. They're all Quality Inn motels. They kept the name for that.
They call it the QI.
Yeah,
now.
they call it the QI, exactly. And we got one room.
Quality Inn. That's a question for Marisol Nichols. Quality Inn, since you love spotting the child trafficking, Marisol, that takes place in motels. Well, this one literally in a run-down motel. Your donations go towards paying what was done to Astra, to bring her to a rundown motel, to live out of another country, because again, England apparently could not give any shred of an F of letting minors go across to another country and just disappeared out of the radar. Remember, guys, all of these kids qualified to join, and the qualifications were very stringent. So the more stringent they told our parents the qualifications were, the more elite they pitched it. But was it really that elite? Was it really, truly that elite? I would say it wasn't that elite at all. Because the fact is, the only kids that qualified to be abducted in this way had to have not a shred of a family member who would give an F about them to claim them. So that was a huge qualifications for Astra. Like, oh, your family's in England, and they already know that your mom is part of this. They already know that your mom is about to spend your entire inheritance paying to go up levels that she really thinks are important for her to go up, and sacrifice the well-being of her literal underage kids to go feed her ego, because she's being molded at a narcissism factory. That's what the whole L. Ron Hubbard bridge is. Like, oh, get a level higher than others, because you really need to tell other people with a bracelet that you're much higher than everyone else. Like, that really means a lot inside those hotels, you guys. Like, those people that do these levels do it so that they're better than others. It's like full-blown discrimination out in the open. I'm better, I'm OT5. What are you? You're a grade 2. You're just down there. You have no idea, because I've been given all these secrets. And what do people do to get the secrets? If you don't do this, you are getting not a shred of a confidential secret. You're not going to pass the eligibility if you're not committed enough to be able to get those secrets. So it couldn't be more pathetic and ridiculous. But yet everyone's just showing up with zero critical thinking skills in the year 2023 to connect a shred of a dot, because they can't even investigate the source of the problem. The convicted felon is being pitched as a full-blown American-bred god in the year 2023. So IRS commissioner, get your facts straight and start telling us. Write us a letter too from the IRS yourselves, since we have to subsidize taxes in this country now. Even though we were child trafficked into this country, somehow we managed to now be put on the subsidizing side of the taxes, because we really need to have these people around, the ones that child trafficked us. Those are the ones that we need to pay you money to make sure that they can then continue running their thing. Make sure that that makes sense, IRS commissioner. Make sure that you are not enabling this wide-ranging criminal conspiracy that apparently not a single shred of a lawyer in the entire Internal Revenue Services has thought, gee, is this a good idea that we don't do due diligence on this, given that there's so many reports out there already from your most reputable, whatever newspapers that y'all are supposed to pay attention to, that apparently you couldn't give any more less shred of an F about. Because, who cares? These kids, a lot of parents are very cuckoo, and in America, we want to make sure that also the cuckoo parents are cradled and canoodled and allowed to be like, believe whatever, abuse your kid, commit a million felonies, launder them inside the hotel. But you know what? In America, we believe in your freedom. We just couldn't insult you under any circumstances, because we're such a country that believes in the laws and the Constitution. And the Constitution, people are literally wiping their what with it as we speak. If children are slaves in the year 2023, then the Constitution is being used to wipe your whats with. So let's make sure that that point is very, very clear, because it couldn't be any more clear. If you don't achieve the state of clear, that's the cognition. That's a clear cognition. We have no constitution in this country, because no matter how many people get paid to enforce laws and do whatever in the hell it is supposed to be that is done to enforce that make sure that that book is what we're supposed to be paying our taxes to. So all of that is being upheld. But it's such a joke. This bureaucracy couldn't be more broken and couldn't be more pathetic and couldn't be more corruptible. It's all that we get out of this BS stuff that's being all this dysfunction is state-sponsored, you guys. So let's make sure that that's fully clear.
Hotel room. Just one room with a bathroom for my dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, and I. We had my brother, my sister, and I on a 3-thing bunk bed, 3 bunk beds high, and then my mom and my dad on a bed in the corner.
Is that common?
Yeah.
There it is.
It's common throughout
That families are living all together in one room like that?
It was common like that everywhere, you guys. I mean, again, once you sign that billion-year contract, you are worth nothing. Your worth becomes being a pawn inside that hotel. You lose your human rights when you sign that billion-year contract. I mean, yet again, these girls that went on the public record, God knows how many decades ago, only to be ignored, only to be completely dismissed, as if they had not a shred of a clue what they were talking about. They were freshly out. had the Tampa Bay Times done any type of real investigation, maybe they could have saved me. Maybe they could have saved so many kids that were still stuck in that hotel, as these kids were already coming forward and talking and saying what was being done to kids at scale. But apparently in Florida, there's nothing that sets the alarm under any circumstances, you guys. And going back to who's enforcing the laws in that state, in the state where this happened to me. And then, yeah, let's say also who's enforcing the laws in the state of California, since all these kids were being taken to all manner of ranches all across California, because why not? Let's leave that question there for y'all.
The
No, I
children
mean-
with the parents?
Yeah, they later moved me out into a dorm, which I liked even less. Now they don't let the kids live with the parents. They stopped letting kids live with the parents, and the kids had to all live by themselves. And the parents would have probably rather had the kids with them, or like a 2-room place with the kids in one room and them in another. But the kids were all moved out, and for about a year from what I remember, we were in this room. My brother then got recruited to join this organization. He
And
was
how old was he?
12, I think.
12 years old, guys. So this problem of recruiting teens inside this hotel is endemic. This problem of recruiting teens inside these hotels, where at the time, Debbie Cook was the captain. So this was Debbie's operation that she was running. She's the one that targeted Astra's mom, because Leslie Woodcraft was one of Debbie Cook's juniors. So let's make sure that dot start getting connected. Astra's mom was Debbie Cook's junior inside the hotel. And Debbie Cook was the one that was masterminding from above, orchestrating, ordering her recruiters down in HCO, right? Like Debbie Cook is up here in the org board. She's the executive. Okay. And then she's got here Division 1. That's how it worked. She was the executive, and then she's got a Division 1 right there. And this Division 1 is recruiting, including but not limited to Leslie Woodcraft and her entire family. They wanted the kids. They wanted anyone that could possibly work that was qualified.
So he was not in the room anymore. So it was me, my sister, my mom,
He
and
was
my
recruited
dad.
to join the Sea Org when he was 12.
12 or 13, yeah. Their entry program, like kind of like boot camp, is called the EPF, the Estates Project Force, and he was on that for a long time. It's supposed to take a couple weeks, and I remember he was on it for like 6 months.
6 months, you guys, because for a 12-year-old being recruited without even his parents, because at this point, Leslie Woodcraft, Mother of the Year, decided a great place for her to dump her 12-year-old was there without an education. And if you guys start understanding the type of tapes that you had to study and hear at Welcome to the Sea Org tapes from L. Ron Hubbard at the ship, oh, very special tapes this were, you guys, where L. Ron Hubbard was there, literally talking around circles ad nauseum, just disgusting terminology to make himself important and influential, and I'm such a this and I'm such a that, and he'd literally like sprinkle all these complex ship terms so he could really say, oh, I'm such a captain, look at my nomenclature of ships, aren't I so masterful? And it was all just an exercise in disgusting derangement and delusions of grandeur. So a 12-year-old that wasn't allowed to go by a single word a 12-year-old didn't understand. So even though that 12-year-old had never been at a ship, he was expected to understand what was said about that ship, like as if he had been sailing for God knows whatever. So you really have to like contextualize that whole entire gamut there so that you can really take a look at what L. Ron Hubbard is really doing.
Or longer. Or maybe the whole time they were there. I don't remember.
I didn't realize they recruited kids at such an early age.
Yeah, Yeah. So yeah, because he went in pretty soon after we got there, from what I remember, and he was 12 when we got there, so he could have been 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to take family time every evening. At dinner time, they were supposed to get like an hour to spend with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
My mom hardly used to ever come. My dad would come, but my mom would hardly ever come. And I don't remember her ever taking a day off. Maybe one day. I think one day I remember we went to an amusement park. I'm sure she took, maybe a couple or 3 days off while we were there, but I don't really remember any of it. My dad would take some time off. Then they sent my dad to work on the ship that they bought called the Free Winds.
So you didn't see him at all?
Didn't see him at all, and then didn't see my mom because she wouldn't come for family time, and she'd get home, usually I think 2 or 3 in the morning.
So now how old were you at this point?
I lived in Florida from when I was 7 till when I was 9.
So there she is in Florida from 7 to 9. Just so that we can have on the record that the Tampa Bay Times has a child trafficking problem in their city that they're refusing to confront. Because minors from England were showing up in Clearwater, Florida for 2 years. And it'd be nice to know how somebody from UK got a visa to be living in the US under these conditions, even at the time that these kids came over, right, Florida? Because I'm sure that Florida, that really cares about illegal immigration, right, Governor DeSantis? Illegal immigration is a high, important thing for him, apparently, in Florida, but not in Clearwater, Florida. So if y'all want to immigrate into the state of Florida, for all of you immigrants that are figuring out where to go next, now that the immigration stuff is happening, go to Clearwater, because you will find a very great paradise there for you to, get a job at a hotel. Hell, maybe you can even sign up for Scientology and get a visa while you're at it. Just sign a $1 billion contract and you'll be good.
And who's watching you while your parents
They have
are gone?
a thing called the Cadet Org, which is for the young kids whose parents are in the Sea Org. So in the morning I go to school. We didn't get sent to a private school. So Mom was sent to the public school. So I go to school and then get back, and then we would do work like cleaning and other little jobs. And they had like 1 adult or 2 adults watching all of us. And then we go to bed. Well, after about a year, I got moved out of my parents' room because they moved all the kids into dorms. And then I slept on a couch the rest of the time. We were in another motel room with maybe 4 or 5 other kids. I think it was 4 kids and 1 adult lived in the room I was living in. And there weren't any beds, so I slept on a couch the whole time. And then
4 kids and 1 adult that was not those kids' parent. So again, for you, Marisol Nichols, why is this not child trafficking according to you? According to you, why are you not showing up at the QI, busting the doors open, seeing that there's Sea Org members, including to, but not limited to, Astra Woodcraft and her little sister, and all the other kids that are on SBTV showing up, talking about how they were also in the Cadet Org. Catherine is another one. Liz Ferris, another one that was in the Cadet Org. Laura was another one in the Cadet Org. There's even the bad cadet. I mean, cadet, minors, children. But again, this is all a very religious experience that we were all having inside these disgusting cockroach-infested hotels of Florida, where they were keeping us as kids, right, Florida? We would love to hear from you, Clearwater Mayor, that you don't even you already renounced, but maybe the son, that's the attorney, the real estate attorney for these people. Maybe you can start typing us a letter from your attorney law firm and tell us why you're hooking these people up with more motels and real estate, and why you have not a shred of scruples inside your head, and how you're so easy to corrupt and manipulate, because apparently you cannot see what's in front of you, and apparently you are so used to the smell of literal POOP that all it took is for these people to, spray themselves some cologne, and you couldn't have been more easy to gaslight then.
So after we'd been there about 2 years, my mom got transferred to Los Angeles to like middle management. And my dad, so we all moved out here. My dad,
There she goes, across state lines. So now she's gone from England to Florida, and now we're sending him all the way to California. So the red state sends it to the blue state in this state-sanctioned criminal enterprise of shuffling minors around with the parents' approval. So Center for Exploited and Missing Children, tell us what y'all do when you find out that the parents consent to how the kids are being abused. Tell us, what is the exposure of a parent that's in on the trafficking of their own children? What is the legal exposure to financially benefiting from the trafficking of your own children? Is there any legal exposure for these parents? Legal people that have told us that everything was a religious experience. Tell us that. Answer us that questions. To speak to us with the facts. Don't speak to us with your delusion. Don't speak to us with what the IRS said. Because the IRS couldn't have been more stupid if they tried. They couldn't have been more idiotic if it was even possible to be that stupid. These IRS agents and this IRS commissioner has shown us literally the definition of idiot personified. Corruption personified is the IRS. The ones who can literally be bought off so that anything goes. We are waiting to hear from y'all. We literally can't wait.
took a leave of absence because he had debts, and you can't pay off your debts if you work there because you only make $30 a week.
Right.
Actually, when we were in Florida, at one point we went back to England to handle our visas. We had to go back there, and we were there for a week or two. And my brother, my sister, my dad. Actually, she was too young to really know. Myself, my brother, and my dad wanted to stay so badly. My dad was even saying we could work at the organization in England. Just let us stay. We want to stay. I was crying because ever since I got into Florida, I would walk around crying, just crying and crying and crying and crying. I hated it. And the woman who ran the children, who was in charge of the children, was really mean. She used to yell at me. I locked myself in the bathroom one day because I didn't want her to get near me. I was terrified. I hated it there so much I thought we were there for vacation.
Yeah.
And instead we're in this motel. We used to put little...
This vacation pitch, you guys, is something that our parents apparently ran on a lot of us. When I was moved from Mexico to Florida, that's what my parents pitched me as well. You're going to be in this hotel. You're going to go for vacation. We're going to be so close to Disney World. You're going to be so lucky. Isn't your life great? But it wasn't a vacation when in the hell we got into those hotels. Like, there was nothing vacation-like about our experience there.
cockroach traps down, and in the morning there would be like 50 cockroaches in it. That's how this place was.
50 cockroaches to a cockroach trap, Tampa Bay Times. Put that on your notes. Put the 50 cockroaches to a trap on y'all's notes. Then highlight, underline that, and circle it in red 1 billion times. And when you're done with that, tell us what was the type of journalistic ethics that y'all uphold there in those Tampa Bay Times offices. And in that 501c that owns the Tampa Bay Times, that's teaching all manner of journalists how to be journalists, because literally they can't even investigate their way out of a literal paper bag in their own city. It's not like they're not enabling and laundering the image of executives, including but not limited to Debbie Cook, who got out and, told everyone how she was just having a jolly old time. Never mind that Debbie Cook is responsible for a lot of the things that Astra's talking about, including all that time that Leslie Woodcraft spent being Debbie Cook's Jr., Astra's mom.
it was like repulsive. And my mom had lied, and I even knew then, because I remember she said, we're just going to go, it's a vacation, we're going to live in a big house, a bunch of people, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I was so upset. And we begged to stay. We begged her and begged her and begged her. We said, we want to stay. We were crying. She said, no, we have to go back. And so we went back. So then I was in the cadet org in Los Angeles. And when we first got here, we were put in a one-room, like, studio apartment that was gross.
And where was that?
This was just in, like, a building. It was just rented for us.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really, like, in a bad area, and it was really gross.
So here's for the Hollywood Reporter to take notes, since this is going on in your city. All the coverage you've given Marisol Nichols as the child trafficking vigilante that she is and all. So start making sense, Hollywood Reporter. Stop talking from both sides of your mouth. Is Marisol Nichols a child trafficking vigilante where this is taking place in your city, where children are being put in these exact conditions? That if maybe you would do some diligence, you would see that, child trafficking is not just, the dirty truckers that, sign up for having their freak on at a motel on the road. It happens in motels in your city, cockroach infested motels, that 50 cockroaches end up dead in those motels, where these literal children were being trafficked by the celebrities you keep covering as being wonderful. And, shouldn't we all really be looking up to them? Right, Elizabeth Moss? Right or wrong? Please join the conversation. By all means, you're fully invited. In fact, CCU, Elizabeth Moss.
And just, like, run down. We were there for about a month, I think, and then my dad finally just went and got us an apartment.
Now, what year was this?
88.
Okay.
And I was 9. So then I was in the cadet org in Los Angeles, and for about the first year I was there, and how it would work is
So notice how in 88, Scientology wasn't even a religiously recognized nothing, and yet they were at it already, literally abducting, kidnapping kids from other countries. So if y'all at the IRS want to write a letter about why that was very okay, and how the statutes of limitations couldn't have run out anymore, because the idiots that we are, the kids that we were trafficked and all, that were stopped from going to school, that were stopped from having any shred of high school diploma, IRS commissioner. Since we couldn't be more stupid and idiotic and gullible, tell us now how it worked that the kid was being trafficked across state lines, across borders, to work at these cockroach infested, disgusting hotels.
in the morning they had their own school. They, like, made their own school, but our teacher wasn't an actual teacher. They're just trained Scientology supervisors, but they don't have to have.
You guys, anyone could become a supervisor. You literally just needed to complete a 2-week course and, hover over people and tell them, oops, you yawn, and then go be like, what's your misunderstood? What's your misunderstood? What's your misunderstood? And if they have a question, all you could say was, what's your misunderstood? Well, find your misunderstood. Well, look earlier and see what's you're not understanding. And the supervisors were literal robot enforcers. I would know. I was one of those robots. I was one of those people that would be hovering around people being told, what's your misunderstood? What's your misunderstood? And all of that stupidity that they were having us do in these grooming salons. So not anyone had any qualifications to do anything. Okay? So let's make sure all of that is clear. And I think, that's going to contextualize what we're going to cover for this specific video at this point, you guys, because let's just do a full recap, because I think that's all we can take for one day. All right, guys, that was our brain palate cleanser. So what did we learn in this video? That this has been on the public record for decades. that Astra and her sister already corroborated themselves and made themselves so clear and so exact and so precise to the point. They spoke to the facts. And we have the Tampa Bay Times completely ignoring it. Decades later, all of these unthinkable, disgusting practices were still being done. We have the fact that while this interview was being conducted, I was locked up inside that hotel. Okay. I, along with hundreds of other kids that are, half of them are under the radar, watching our videos, listening to us, being scared shitless that they get found out as watching any of this content, because they're not supposed to hear anything negative that can, tarnish the PR of L. Ron Hubbard, of Influencer of the Year, L. Ron Hubbard. We've learned that the IRS does not give a shred of an F about being responsible for due diligence. Like, literally, they have records and pages of millions of dollars being moved around all of these commercial buildings and hotels for God knows what reason. Well, we know what the reason is, because they launder felonies. Self-admitted felonies are laundered in that hotel with a 2-week course that a minor can complete and have more power than the sitting United States president and all the justices, Superior Court justices combined. Because again, L. Ron Hubbard wrote it in a piece of paper that you could forgive Class A felonies and you didn't have to check in with nobody. So we definitely have learned that the hard way. So I would just close out this video with saying, please leave your question to these institutions that say are getting paid to do a job. They're actually putting their name on the line, saying that they're the ones that know, they're the ones to check out, that they're the ones that are the top of the food chain in prestige, including but not limited to. Leave your comments to the Tampa Bay Times, the Clearwater Police, the LAPD HQ, that's their handle, the LA Times as well, the New York Times, since they also decided to give L. Ron Hubbard 19 bestseller, whatever they call it, and ask them why they are enabling this at scale, and why in the year 2023, not a shred of anything has changed, and they're all still cradling and canoodling these grown adults, these grown-ass parents that apparently have not a shred of a scruple left by the time L. Ron Hubbard is done with them. Those are the facts. That's what needs to be confronted, and that's what we need to start hearing pitches from all of these institutions that are either enablers or just full-blown recklessly negligent and don't even have a shred of a clue that it is their job to do a job. And that what happened to us couldn't have happened with them not just being total idiots that don't care, that won't do any type of heavy lifting. If it's heavy, leave it to the kids. It's up to them. Next lifetime, don't be born into a Scientology family, is what we are being told by all these gaslighters that are not under the influence of L. Ron Hubbard. Let's not forget that, you guys. None of the media can claim that they are under the influence of L. Ron Hubbard. That's for our parents to claim. That's for David Miscavige to claim. That's for Debbie Cook to claim. Oh my God, but I thought L. Ron Hubbard, he really did say it. I have all the memos here to prove it. Look, he said that if you did this, then this would happen, without any critical thinking. Well, why is the media of the United States, the top tier corporate media with the most prestige, the biggest brands in the news business, so recklessly negligent and pathetic? When we have the answer to that question, we will then start understanding a lot more to what in the literal hell is going on in America. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys very, very, very soon. Bye-bye.